Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second to the last day of the virtual Iowa Governor's Conference on Public Health. It's been a great almost 3 weeks, and here we are with two of our final four presentations. I'm so happy you've joined us here today, and especially to those of you who've been with us for the past several weeks. Thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting Iowa's public health professionals. As you know, we usually meet in April, early April, to be together to celebrate public health in Iowa and to learn and to share from one another. But COVID caused us to adjust how we share public health best practices and lessons learned this year, and it has been going so well for us. And I'm so grateful that you've continue to join us and learn from our colleagues. My name is Lena Tucker-Binders. I'm the Executive Director of Iowa Public Health Association. And again, I welcome you welcome back to those of you who've been here before, and welcome to those of you who are just joining us for the first time today. The Governor's Conference is put on every year by Iowa Public Health Association and Iowa Environmental Health Association and other planning partners. We are both member organizations, nonprofit associations, and we would love your support. Thank you to those of you who are currently members, and I welcome all of you to consider joining IPHA. Your membership support is what allows us to do things like this, to deliver special content and programming throughout the year, to advocate on your behalf, and to strengthen the voice for public health in Iowa, which is exactly what we are doing today. So I encourage you to join IPHA and become an active member. I also want to thank our sponsors and exhibitors for the virtual Governor's Conference on Public Health. Their commitment to public health in Iowa is paramount, especially these days and the days coming ahead as we see how the virus plays out and we continue to need the expertise in public health. So thank you especially to Aetna, AmeriGroup, Unity Point Health, and the College Public Health for your support, and also to our exhibitors. Had we met in person this year, you would have visited them at their table, so I encourage you to visit them virtually. They are ACES 360, Champ Software, Des Moines University, Healthy Hometown, Iowa Corn Growers Association, IDPH Bureau of Chronic Disease Prevention and Management, and the Midwestern Public Health Training Center. Before I introduce today's speakers, just a reminder that everyone is on mute, and we've been very lucky. We haven't had any Zoom bombing or anything like that, but we want to keep it that way. So the chat function is set to allow you to communicate with me and the presenters. I will be fielding all questions, so go ahead and send them along via the chat function or in the Q&A box, and I will get those to the presenters. We'll take Q&A at the end of each presentation, and I will read your questions then, and we'll have a great discussion. Today, we do have two presentations. Julie Uram will start us off with strategies to help food assistance clients to improve their diets. And then Caitlin Scheuermann will continue on the nutrition topic and discuss what a farm-to-school movement looks like in a growing district here in Iowa. We did have a third presentation scheduled today originally. Megan Nelson was going to present about New Delhi medley beta-lactamase. You can tell this is not my my area of expertise, but Megan was called up to help at the State Hygienic Lab help them with their COVID response. So we definitely respect the work that she's doing, although we will miss her presentation today. We are hoping that we can find another time for her to present her work. So last thing before we get on with the presentations, CEUs. I know many of you are here for continuing education credits. Caitlin's presentation today, the second presentation, is approved for CHES and dietetics credits. If you are looking for those credits, please do write your name in the chat function and also your CHES number or your dietetics number, and we will follow up. And then you'll also need to complete the evaluation session that is available on the vIGCPH website. And so with that, let's get started. I'm going to hand it over to Julie from Drake University, who again will share with us strategies for helping people using food assistance to achieve a healthier diet. Julie?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Lena. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Alrighty. Thank you again for joining us. My name is Julie Uram, and I'm a soon-to-be graduate of Drake University. studying environmental science and sociology. And for the past year and a half, I've had the privilege of working as a research associate at the Harkin Institute for Public Policy and Citizen Engagement. I've worked under Dr. Lindy Buckingham-Schutt, the Director of Wellness and Nutrition, and we've been working on an ongoing project to build support for healthy eating among SNAP participants. So today I'm going to share with you one section of that research, which is a qualitative analysis of 13 interviews with key informants of the SNAP program. And I would also like to recognize our colleague Joelle Johnson from the Center for Science in the Public Interest in Washington, D.C. She has helped introduce and get us rolling on this project and also provided guidance throughout. Great. So first, SNAP, some of you may be very familiar, some less. So this is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It is, up until 2008, it was called food stamps, and it is known as food assistance in Iowa, but I'll be referring to it as SNAP, as most public health professionals do. This is the largest federal food assistance program and a key component of the United States public health, economic, and social safety net. So the goals of our research are to build support to empower healthy eating among SNAP recipients in Iowa, and more specifically, to create a strategy or a set of strategies to improve diet quality of SNAP recipients that is informed and supported by statewide experts in Iowa. And I will mention that this section of the research is just one part. To gain state information about what strategies are supported statewide, we have also conducted interviews with SNAP recipients and SNAP retailers. We've conducted 3 group convenings, group discussions across the state, and we conducted a digital survey with 500 Iowans, just members of the public, to ask their perspectives as well. We also want to recognize that we are working to build on the existing double up food bucks that we have in Iowa. Last week, we heard from Erin McLaurin at the Healthiest State Initiative about the success of double up food bucks, which is a financial incentive program within SNAP, where SNAP recipients who purchase fruits and vegetables or fresh produce with their SNAP benefits can be eligible to get $1 back for each dollar spent, up to $20 per day. So again, we want to, with this research, be looking for strategies that build on or expand the success that Double Up Food Bucks has seen. So first, we're going to look at the different strategies that we have been examining. And I want to point out that we're looking specifically at strategies to improve diet quality among SNAP participants. This research did not look at strategies such as improving the minimum benefits of SNAP or making SNAP available online, which are definitely pertinent, important strategies to consider, but we did not look at those in our research. To start, our first strategy we've examined is that of increasing stocking standards for SNAP retailers. So for example, all SNAP retailers that are part of the SNAP program have to meet certain standards. So this may include 3 varieties of fruits or 4 varieties of protein in stores. So grocery stores and big box stores easily exceed these stocking standards. However, smaller stores, discount and convenience stores often just barely reach these stocking standards. One expert recommended strategy is to increase the stocking standards so that SNAP retailers will have to provide more varieties and a higher abundance of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and dairy. And this would increase availability and accessibility of healthy items to SNAP recipients. The second strategy that we have examined is that of healthy marketing strategies. This includes making the items at checkouts healthier or swapping them out, swapping soda with water or fruit. as well as price promoting healthy items rather than unhealthy items. Our third strategy is to expand the financial incentives or double up food bucks to include canned and frozen fruits and vegetables with a limit for added sodium and sugar on those products. Our fourth strategy is to increase the number of participating locations who participate in double up food bucks. Right now, double up food bucks is in an increasing number of locations across the state. However, there is concentration in urban areas, such as in Des Moines and Cedar Rapids. And there's also more farmers markets participating than grocery stores. And so when we refer to increasing incentive locations, this means both increasing the number of grocery stores participating, but also reaching more rural areas. Our fifth strategy is to restrict SNAP purchases of soda and sugary beverages. And this is a strong and controversial strategy. So our sixth strategy is pairing disincentives for sugary drinks with incentives for fruits and vegetables. So this may look like SNAP participants opting into a program where if they agree or do not buy sugar-sweetened beverages and soda, then they will receive financial incentives for fruits and vegetables. So this part of our research included 13 interviews with key informants. So the interview participants were selected based on their expertise and experience with SNAP, and their work represents the sectors of hunger relief, public health, nutrition education, economic research, healthcare, and community economic development. And these participants have focuses on urban, suburban, and rural health and come from all over the state. These interviews were one-on-one and took place over the summer, mostly on the phone and some in person. They all took between 30 and 60 minutes. And the interviews were conducted by myself, Lindy, and Joelle Johnson. So in the interviews, all of the participants were asked about the 6 strategies, given a chance to discuss why they support or oppose each strategy, and asked for a hard support or oppose on each one. So in this graph, we see the 6 strategy options, and then the support is blue and oppose is orange. So we can see that marketing strategies is the one strategy that received unanimous support among our 13 key informants. And the strategy of restricting sugary drinks received the least amount of support. So also in reviewing this data, I conducted a qualitative analysis. So I looked for codes or common themes that were brought up in the interviews and then coded them for and counted frequency. We also organized these codes into opportunities and barriers. So I'm going to go through each of those. Our first code of opportunity is that of access. So this is the idea that a strategy would increase accessibility to healthy purchases, to fruits and vegetables. And this theme was mentioned 10 times across the 13 interviews. We also have the opportunity of phase-in. So this was any time that the idea of slowly or gradually building in such a strategy would be advantageous and make it more sustainable. This was mentioned 9 times. The opportunity to educate both SNAP recipients and non-SNAP shoppers about nutritious purchases, about health. This opportunity was mentioned 9 times. And we have the opportunity to reach rural areas. So 8 times this was mentioned. Many of you may know that there is a higher prevalence of poverty and food insecurity in rural areas. So the times that rural was mentioned as an opportunity, the strategy was recognized as increasing access for fruits and vegetables in rural areas. And we also have barriers. So these were concerns that interviewees brought up. The first of which is program integrity. So this is the concern that changes or increased rules to the SNAP program would harm those who currently support, whether financially or retailers support of the SNAP program. This could lead to SNAP retailers dropping out or loss of funding if certain changes were made. This concern was brought up 6 times. We also have the concern of complexity, that a specific strategy would just be too complex, incite confusion, and that this could be a barrier to the strategy's implementation. This was recognized 10 times. Next is feasibility, the concern that a strategy would cost too much or not be worth the cost. This was mentioned 11 times. And finally, the concern about retailer buy-in was brought up. So this is the idea that retailers would be resistant or refuse to participate in a strategy, or that retailers would drop out of the SNAP program and no longer accept SNAP benefits from their customers. And this concern was brought up 15 times. So here we see, this is kind of a complex graph, but I've organized the frequency of each code according to the strategy. So at the top, we see the 6 strategies, and then going down vertically are the codes that I just mentioned and opportunities and barriers. So for example, you can see the light blue, that's healthy marketing strategies. That was mentioned 7 times at the bottom in retailer as a barrier. So when discussing the strategy of healthy marketing strategies, which we know was unanimously supported by our 13 interviewees, they did bring up, 7 brought up the concern about retailer buy-in or retailer dropout. So next we're going to move on to discuss the opportunities and barriers with the top 3 supported strategies. The first of which is to increase healthy checkout, placement, and marketing strategies. So this exemplifies a great opportunity to encourage healthy purchases for all shoppers, both SNAP and non-SNAP recipients. However, with this strategy comes the concern about potential confusion or disagreement on what items are deemed healthy. For example, in this photo, most people would agree that an apple or an orange are healthy items. However, once an item is packaged or other ingredients are added, the line gets blurred on what exactly is healthy. It is, of course, possible to create standardization, for example, like a limit on added sugar and sodium, but this could prove to be difficult or confusing amongst different retailers or different stores or throughout the state. Our next strategy is that to expand the double up incentives to include frozen and canned fruits and vegetables with a limit for sodium and added sugars. This strategy provides a great opportunity to recognize and leverage the nutritional value of produce in non-fresh forms and to increase access to fruits and vegetables. There's also the opportunity to reduce waste, both for retailers and for shoppers. For example, in places with less fresh produce accessibility or in winter months, frozen and canned options can be a great nutritious alternative. There is the barrier with this strategy that it would increase the cost or could increase the cost of incentive programs, which would require more grant funding because the more that double up food bucks are used, the more grant funds that are needed. And our final strategy is that to expand incentive pilots to more types of retailers and rural areas. This provides an opportunity to increase accessibility for marginalized groups and regions. However, there is a barrier, again, of funding, as well as the technological and logistical needs of expanding to rural areas. To start double up food bucks in a grocery store or in a farmer's market requires dedicated training and education of all parties involved. And so this was recognized as a need and a concern associated with this strategy. So I would like to acknowledge our advisory board that helped locate the 13 key informants, as well as advise this whole research project, as well as our funder, Delta Dental of Iowa. And as a general update, I would like to note that this past winter and past summer, we were gathering the data from all these different sources. And in the coming months, we will be releasing the complete report where we put together the feedback from individual key informants, SNAP retailers, SNAP participants themselves, and the public, and put that all together to create a set of strategies that have the most support statewide. I would also like to thank those who participated in our interviews and our group convenings, especially if any of you are listening today. We greatly appreciate your participation. Now I'm happy to answer questions and begin a discussion on SNAP, improving nutrition in SNAP.
Great. Thank you, Julie. That was a great presentation, and great work overall. We do have some questions coming in here. The first one is, it seems that many of the strategies that you talked about in the Double Up Food Bucks are related to fruits and veg. What are their plans, and what might they be to expand other nutrient-dense foods like whole grains, dairy, or protein foods?
Yeah, this is a great question. There is a possibility with the strategy to include fruit or frozen and canned fruits and vegetables, to also include whole grain items, low-fat dairy. However, with those, it's increasingly complex to decide or determine or standardize what items are healthy, even amongst different brands. To standardize that. And so I think we, in this research, we're just focused on frozen and canned because of the complexity of adding more items. There's just generally less support. But that is definitely something that is looked into. Definitely at the research that comes from the Center for Science and the Public Interest is very interested in expanding those incentives for those items.
I was having a hard time getting myself off mute. Okay, so another couple questions coming in. What did you work at all, or does Double Up Food Bucks at all work with ethnic retailers?
I am not sure, honestly. I have a vague understanding of the types of retailers that are involved in Double Up across Iowa. And a majority of them are farmers markets, both big and small, as well as Fairway stores and Hy-Vees. I am not sure. I know there are ethnic retailers that may accept SNAP, but I don't know if they participate in Double Up Food Bucks.
Fair enough. What about food preparation? So you're encouraging more fruits and vegetables, but there might be types that people are unfamiliar with, or maybe have different regional cultural significance to diet. Are you doing anything or to expand people's palate, I guess, or food prep lessons?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would first put that goal with our healthy marketing strategies. It's kind of a vague umbrella to say healthy marketing strategies, because that could involve putting water at the checkout, or it could involve educational signage that says dietitian pick of the month, like you're mentioning, introducing new types of fruits and vegetables or things that people that may be less common. But I will say there were other strategies beyond these 6 that have been brought up in our different data gathering sources, including education and cooking classes for SNAP participants, which happens already through SNAP Ed, but could be increased. So in other parts of our research, we have looked more into, is there support or interest in expanding these education programs to say, like you're saying, to reach to more cultural types of foods? I think that's a really great question, but not something we looked at very closely in this specific part of the research.
Sure. I guess that's why we always say that the areas for more research include, right?
Absolutely.
Last question that's coming in, actually, it's kind of a two-part question. Who does the final report go to? And do some of the recommendations that you're making, given that they are related to SNAP dollars, would they require legislative change, or is it more retailer decision?
Yes, those are great questions. We will have a final report as well as a brief or a memo. So we are looking to share this both with professional public health as well as retailers that have participated and are deeply entwined in SNAP and nutrition incentives, but also to other just general public. Lindy could definitely speak more specifically on who this will be shared with directly. However, she's not able to join us today. And then the second part of the question, can you remind me what that?
The decision making, where does that,
Oh, yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
so
implementing the changes that you're recommending.
yes. So the final report in each section of the report is suggesting strategies that have statewide support. And these strategies would be first implemented in a pilot. So a grant-funded pilot to just test in a specific place or with a specific retailer first. Gather data on the success or lack of success with that strategy before it is then suggested as a policy change at the state level.
Great. Great job, Julie. Lots of interesting information there. I attended the meeting that I think kicked off this work earlier. Was it last fall or summer? So it's great to see how it's advanced. So good job. And now we're going to switch, not really switching gears, because Caitlin Scheuermann is keeping us on the nutrition train here and is going to talk more locally about how her school district, Waukee School District, what their experience is with the local farm to school movement. So Caitlin?
Awesome. Thank you, Lena, for having us on today. We're really excited to share about the work that we're doing with Farm to School. So my name is Caitlin Sharman. I'm the dietitian for Waukee's Nutrition Services Department, and I've also been coordinating our Farm to School efforts. And then we have Jennifer Walters, who is our Farm to School grant facilitator through our USDA grant. So I'll let Jen take it over.
Thanks, Caitlin. As Caitlin mentioned, I'm the Farm to School grant facilitator for Waukee Schools. I previously worked for our local health department as our collaboration got started. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about what Farm to School is, provide just a little bit of history of the collaboration between local public health and the school, an overview of the USDA planning grant that we currently have and our work plan, and then I'll pass it back to Caitlin to really take a deeper dive about more of the specifics of the work that we're doing in Waukee. So just to get started, when we think about Farm to School, we typically think about 3 core elements. So in general, Farm to School is programming that connects schools to local farms and foods. And the 3 core elements include education, local food procurement, and school gardens. I will say Waukee has taken a bit broader approach to that 3rd component of school gardens and termed it more hands-on agricultural opportunities, because we know that like an in-ground school garden may not be the best fit for every school and wanted some flexibility in how we do that. And she'll talk about some innovative ways such as tower gardens that we're incorporating that within the district. And so why Farm to School? Really, the National Farm to School Network talks about the 3 wins. So kids win, farmers win, and communities win. So kids win by having access to nutrition education, healthier foods, hands-on opportunities to be exposed to agriculture and gardens within the classroom. Farmers win because there's financial opportunity for farmers that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise had. And communities win because Farm to School really does provide opportunities to build family and community engagement. And buying local hopefully creates some new jobs and strengthens our local economy. Yep. So why partner with schools? I think there's tremendous opportunities, especially here in Iowa, for local health departments and nonprofits to partner with schools to address nutrition. We know that public health organizations are working towards creating overall health in the community, and it ties in very nicely with the community health needs assessment and health improvement planning process. Iowa has a lot of work to do in this area. Iowa regularly ranks last in fruit and vegetable consumption. So adults and children typically and significantly fall short of meeting the recommended daily intake for both fruits and vegetables. And we know that farm to school programs engage kids, and the more we can engage parents in these opportunities, not only through things that students are taking home and learning, but inviting parents in to learn more about farm to school and the nutrition aspects, that we can hopefully influence their behavior as well. Farm to school is also a really nice complement to teaching just children healthy habits early in general, and it ties in nicely with a lot of other messages, specifically some of the statewide health initiatives, including 5210, which we've done in Waukee schools as well. So just briefly how we got started, as I mentioned previously, at the time when the USDA Farm to School Planning Grant was posted, I worked for the local health department and met Caitlin and Jeannie, the director of food service, through Clive's Healthy Hometown Initiative. So we came together along with many other community stakeholders as part of the Eat Well task force, and right away identified some mutual priorities in terms of improving access to healthy foods, really focusing on how we can partner with schools, and access to healthy food was identified as a priority through our own China HIP. And so I had some previous experience with USDA Farm to School Planning Grant that Des Moines Public Schools had, and so really it was just a conversation with Caitlin and Jeannie about the opportunity and how we could partner to submit an application. And we worked really collaboratively on authoring the application. So health department staff kind of did a lot of the information gathering and drafting, and then we passed it on to Caitlin and Jeannie for revision and feedback. So it was a very collaborative process. And then Waukee Schools ended up submitting the application as the lead applicant and was awarded. So the USDA Farm to School Planning Grant, there are typically two tracks that the USDA offers. One is the planning grant and one is an implementation grant. So planning grants are more for schools who are just getting started with farm to school, whereas the implementation grant is for schools who are a little bit farther along with farm to school. So we chose to apply for the planning grant just because we hadn't really done much with farm to school in the Waukee district prior to this. Typically, the RFP for this grant is posted in October and due in December. And the goal is to increase local food served through the trial of nutrition programs, teach children about food and agriculture through garden and classroom education, and really just develop capacity for both schools and our local producers to be able to participate in farm to school opportunities. So our grant was awarded in June of 2018, and it will go through actually June of 2020. We requested a no-cost extension in general, just to get us an extra growing season, and then with COVID this summer, it's definitely impacted our plans and ability to do some of the school gardening that we had planned on this summer. And so just to give us some extra time and to undertake some more thoughtful planning and time to spend our funds wisely, we've extended our grant until next June. The goal of the project is to create a comprehensive, sustainable farm to school action plan for the district. And some of the objectives that we're working on, which Caitlin will talk more about, are participating in training opportunities, really trying to learn the best practices in farm to school. We convene monthly planning meetings with our farm to school committee, working with all of our stakeholders to identify short and long-term vision and goals for farm to school related to procurement, those hands-on ag experiences, and curriculum integration. At the same time, we're piloting some of those hands-on experiences within the schools, and that's from pre-K all the way through 12. We're also working internally as a district to establish some of those policies and procedures and supports for how we purchase local foods, as well as how can we integrate local foods and education into our summer food service program. And lastly, we're working to really create awareness about the farm to school activities that we're doing, and that includes working on creating and distributing some farm to school marketing materials.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen. So Farm to School is a movement that's really been continuing to grow as we're building partnerships in our district and within the greater community in Waukee. There we go. So this is our Farm to School vision for our program, and this was created by our Farm to School committee. Our three key areas of focus with Farm to School are, as Jen said, nutrition education, hands-on agricultural experiences for students, and then local procurement, or how we're bringing those local foods into the cafeteria. We do have a committee. We have 81 total members who are receiving regular updates about our Farm to School efforts, and then 15 of those are regularly attending our monthly meetings that are held in person or, as of late, virtually online. We have various sectors represented, and you can see those listed on the slide here. So our short-term goals with Farm to School, really with procurement, we're focusing on implementing a Harvest of the Month program district-wide in the coming year, and working with Farm Table Delivery, which is a local food hub. And we've done this because we know Farm Table is able to provide a quantity that we need, being a very large district and growing district. And so that's where we're working to start doing our procurement on a more regular basis. The past 2 years, we've participated in Iowa Local Food Day, which has been great to give us that sort of practice in local procurement, but now we want to take it to the next level by doing it on a more regular basis throughout the year versus just annually. And then also we're planning to provide support for our school gardens and classroom learning, and then also curriculum and education support as well for teaching about local food production and the environment in the classroom setting. Long-term goals, so beyond kind of this next school year, we're looking to work with our existing produce distributor to carry more of those local options and make local products available for Department of Defense commodity dollar use, which many schools utilize those funds, and it would just assist schools in being able to use those funds and also support local economy. We also are looking to utilize our local food hubs to purchase more large quantities of local on a regular basis, and that includes then integrating into our regular cycle menu, which is a 3-week cycle. So kind of going even beyond just that monthly procurement and getting a little more frequent. And then also we're looking at how we can connect our local producers to market opportunities by either working with us as a district directly, working with our produce distributor, or working with Farm Table, the local food hub. We're also working with Apex students right now to investigate building a district greenhouse. This is something that we felt will help with doing seed starts for gardens, and having those in-house versus purchasing them from an outside source. And then also just to engage students in learning even more. And then with curriculum, we're looking to have both cumulative and integrated curriculum. So we really want it to go from that pre-K early care level all the way through high school, and kids getting a little something of farm to school or food education all along the way. So throughout the presentation, we kind of have our discussion questions that we would have done in person built in. And so we've framed them more as some things for you to think about as you're thinking about the farm to school movement in your communities and in your roles. So thinking about, after this first section, who are the key partners in your community who have a stake or interest in farm to school activities? And then how can you engage them in a discussion about bringing farm to school to your community or expanding upon your current efforts? So hands-on experiences really are a key part of the food system and teaching kids about the food system. And so some of the experiences that we've offered our raised bed gardens, we have container gardens in the district. We also have tower gardens, which I've included the link there because they are kind of a unique opportunity. And there's also a picture there to the right of what a tower garden looks like. We've done seed starting activities. We've just started doing some worm compost bins, which are really interesting. We've also done some taste testing, and then field trips and classroom presentations are something that are kind of coming along and are done more on a sporadic basis right now as teachers are able, but something we're looking to maybe offer more of in the future. So our current hands-on experiences in the district that we have now, here I've got the pictures of the hands-on experience, and then below is the vision that that building has set for that experience. So we have a raised bed garden at Walnut Hills currently, and that's an elementary school. And since this picture, they've actually gotten new beds built and some nice benches put in. So we'll have to update that in our next presentations once those gardens get planted. So Easton Elementary has a tower garden and a rooftop container garden at their building. And then We Warriors, which is our staff in-house daycare, has 2 container gardens. So they're located at 2 different buildings, and they have their container gardens right outside their door where their kids come in. And then Schuler Elementary will be putting in their raised bed garden in the fall now. They were supposed to do it this spring, but with COVID have been put on hold. They did get their tower garden planted, but unfortunately we were out of school before they were able to see any fruits off of that. So taste testing, this is another great way to get kids to try some new or unfamiliar foods. And it gives them an opportunity to taste without necessarily that pressure to eat a full portion that may be on their tray if we're serving it during lunchtime. So also taste testing for our district is a really great way for school gardens to use their produce. Typically a school garden isn't going to produce the quantity we need to be served in an actual meal or even enough for just even one grade level. We just go through such a large volume of food. So this is really the best way that we can encourage them to still grow their produce and use it in their curriculum, but then to get kids to taste what they've grown. So we encourage them to use it through their Leader in Me passion clubs, their after-school cooking groups, potentially in a grade levels lunch. You know, it kind of depends on how much their garden is able to produce. And then also in partnership with our summer food service program, which I'll talk about that later. There is a portable kitchen resource here as well that can be really helpful for doing taste tests. We've also done lots of outreach with families. So during open house night last year, we had booths at 4 of our elementary schools. Walnut Hills actually featured carrots that they grew in their garden at their open house night and gave those out as samples to families. And then I was at Schuler Elementary, and we did a corn black bean salsa with items that we procured from farm table delivery. And then Easton and Brookview, they're newer schools that are just kind of starting out on their garden plans, and so they just had informational tables there and had a sign up for families so we could start to gather some interest from parents for volunteers, because we know that these things take lots of volunteers to work. And then also at Brookview's ESL night, we had presented to families about farm to school efforts, and then we sampled local yogurt in the cafeteria during a time where families came in to eat a free meal. So that was really great. We know a lot of our families who are our ESL families have backgrounds in farming or agriculture, and so we wanted to share that this is an opportunity where they can get involved with their school and utilize some of their skills that they have. So our next think about is to think about what hands-on experiences you could offer in your role to a farm to school program, because these things do take lots of partners and hands, which I'll talk about kind of some of our partnerships here in a minute. So our cross-sector partnerships, this is, like I said, really key to what we do with Farm to School, because a lot of this work doesn't happen with just one person or a small team of people. So one taste test experience that we had done in the past, so this is kind of both a hands-on experience and a partnership for us, was using a blender bike. And we did this during local food day the week prior at 4 elementary schools and brought it out, made an aronia berry slushies with local aronia berries. And the kids really got into it, really loved being able to see the bike blend up all this fruit into a cool slushie they got to taste during lunchtime. So that was a really fun activity. And then we also have used the blender bikes as part of family engagement events for programming with Switch, which is a school wellness intervention through Iowa State Extension. And we had made a local ranch veggie dip with yogurt, or local yogurt. And then we also did a salsa on the blender bike itself. And the blender bikes were provided in partnership with Eat Greater Des Moines and ISU Extension. So really having those two players in to help provide the equipment was super helpful for us to make these events successful. And then Farm to Summer is a campaign that we've participated in the last 3 years from the Department of Ag and Land Stewardship. And Walnut Hills last year provided snap peas for our Farm to Summer activities. And so we were able to serve them out as little tastes for the kids at our summer food service sites. And then we also partnered with ISU Extension and Dallas County Public Health to do nutrition education activities on sites to complement the samples that we were able to bring out. So that was a really great partnership. We are a little bummed that it won't happen in quite the same capacity this year, but we're hoping for future years we can continue this because it was a great way for our garden to use their produce in the summer, and then also for us to really give kids some quality education out at our summer food service sites. And it also helps with retaining our participation at our summer food service sites and keeping kids there and engaged. We've also partnered with We Warriors, our early care on site, to bring in local cucumbers and local mint to make an infused water during Healthy Estate Month. And this was during the Zero Sugary Drinks or Drink More Water week. So that was a really fun way for us to kind of put a farm to school spin on an event that they were already planning to participate in. Iowa Local Food Day, so this is October. And we've participated the last 2 years in Iowa Local Food Day. And on the slide, there's just a list of all the different products that we sourced locally in 2019. So this has been a really great way for us to practice our procurement and what that looks like on a large district-wide scale. So this has been a really great event. We get of the products and the kids really enjoy, especially the yogurt and the apples. So our next think about is thinking about how you can partner with schools to help incorporate nutrition education. This is something that's always kind of a struggle, is having the manpower and the time to do nutrition education. So thinking about, as public health professionals, or in whatever role that you're in, how you can help schools to kind of bring that in even more. So wellness policy integration. So all school districts that participate in the National School Lunch Program have to have a local wellness policy, and this is required by the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010. And so you can see the policies have several items that they must include, which includes nutrition promotion and education. There's physical activity, other activities that promote wellness, and then also meal standards and standards for foods that are sold outside of the meal. So lots that goes into a wellness policy. And farm to school can fit in several places within the wellness policy. And so I've kind of bolded here. These are some examples, I think, from Boulder Valley School District, if I remember correctly. And they really have some really good language for incorporating farm to school into the wellness policy. So why should you integrate it into your wellness policy? Farm to school really helps a district achieve their goals around nutrition promotion and the standards for what's served in schools, because all schools that participate in National School Lunch Program, they have to serve fruits and vegetables. Kids have to take it on their tray if the school participates in offer versus serve. So having that fresh local product and being able to market it makes it more appealing for kids to want to take that item. So it also establishes the program in the school system. Sometimes, these programs can be seen as, kind of auxiliary programming. It's fun, it's great, it's really nice, but, if push comes to shove and, funding is an issue and things like that, this really, by having it built into your policy, it really establishes it in the district. And then it also helps to ensure the sustainability of your programming, because if it's written in your policy, you have to abide by your policy. So it really ensures that that program is there for the long haul. And then it also increases your team support and buy-in, especially with your administrators, if they understand that this is really an important program and can see the benefit in it and it's written into policy, just really helps to garner that support. So we brought some policy language resources here for you, just so you can kind of delve into this a little bit deeper. This is one of our areas that we're still working on as we're finishing up our planning grant, is looking how we can build in this policy. So this think about is where can you support schools in integrating farm to school in their wellness efforts, and again, think about this in the lens of your role. So just a couple of resources that we've developed as part of our farm to school planning grant for these last couple of slides. So our school garden checklist, this is something we developed kind of out of an ask from our upper administration. In the past, school gardens had been something that, it was great for a while, and then it just kind of fell to weeds after, after a bit, when the newness wore off. So we really wanted to help to create a protocol for new gardens, so there's some structure and sustainability when they're established. So we've been piloting implementation with this with a couple of our schools, and we're hoping, through extending our grant, that we'll be able to see kind of how that holds up as we go through this coming year, and then also through next growing season, since we have a lot of our gardens on hold right now. So on the school garden checklist, it covers building their garden team. So we really wanted to focus on there being a team. So is kind of, but also to give them that team to go along with them. Also focuses on garden design, their funds management, so how they're going to continue to fund their garden. Initially we might have our farm to school grant funds up front, but then going forward, what does that look like? And then also there's some pieces about curriculum integration, and then garden maintenance, which is a huge piece of gardens, is how are you going to continue to take care of it. So this has been really great, and we have the checklist itself, but then we also created a template, which is the picture on the right side of the screen, and that's really a document then for the schools to be able to fill in and then to keep as sort of a record of this is why we've started our garden, and have that sort of documentation for them. And then we also just recently created our farm to school lesson and hands-on experience request form. So this is a Google form that we will be utilizing. It's posted on our intranet, so it's accessible to staff for them to request field trips, classroom lessons, and education or curriculum if they're looking for something for themselves to teach in their classroom. So there's different questions we ask on there just to get a general idea of what they're looking for. And then this allows all the requests to go to one place, and then the requests are then forwarded on to an appropriate person. So whether that's ISU Extension, who has, you know, a pollinators resource, or Dallas County Ag in the Classroom that can connect them to someone who does beef production, or Midwest Dairy who has virtual farm tours, it allows us to just gather those in one place. And then also for our tracking purposes, it allows us to see what's been requested so we can see what's most popular. And then for future funding opportunities, it also allows us to think about what might be appropriate to apply for. So some final think about, so thinking about what stood out for you from today's presentation, what seems easy or most challenging about Farm to School, and then what are a couple of things that you can take back to your community and some next steps for you and your organization related to Farm to School. So this is our contact information, and thank you for having us today.
Thank you both, Caitlin and Jennifer. We've had quite a few questions come in, so I think we're going to continue the conversation for a while. This has all been great information, and it's such a great opportunity for kids in your school district. The first question is wondering if you work with organic producers, and a second question along the same line: is there concerns about pesticide exposure with the kids who are involved in the garden clubs?
So with our gardens, we ask them not to necessarily practice organic, but to be conscious of what materials they are using on their gardens. We do have some resources for them from like Chicago Public Schools that are available. So they can determine what's going to work best for them. And there's also some great guidance in those documents from schools that have already done it. So we don't necessarily encourage them to use pesticides, and we just want them to be conscious of what they're choosing to put on their gardens.
And are any of the local farms that you work with, are any of them organic farmers?
I don't know for sure. That's not something we necessarily require or, you know, are necessarily looking for when we're considering buying local. We're focused more on purchasing a local product and then making sure that we can get the quantity we need. Being that we're such a large district, we're also working through a food hub when we're doing our really large bits of procurement. And so there's that kind of extra layer of food safety and that check-in with the farmer from the food hubs, and so that's really helpful for us.
Great. A couple of questions related to that, at least I think they are anyway. Maybe you disagree. Looking for more information about the farm table delivery system that you use, and I'm wondering if this question kind of falls in line with that too. Is there an opportunity through the school district to work with your producers and offer a CSA option for local for district families?
Yeah, I don't know about the CSA option. So Farm Table, a food hub, what that really means is they are one organization that's aggregating product from lots of different farmers. So they're working with farmers from across the state. So even when we get like local cucumbers, for example, they may not come all from one farm. They may come from several different farms to get us the quantity that we need. So with them acting together, that really helps us with that piece of it. Did I answer? I don't think I answered the question fully.
I think so. I think so. Yeah. Go ahead, Jen.
Maybe add that Farm Table, their service area right now is kind of from Omaha to the Des Moines metro area as to where they deliver. But there are probably some other options across the state. That's just the one that we've been using. And as Caitlin mentioned, it really does help solve some of our challenges. eliminates the need for us to reach out or partner or contract with multiple farmers. We can just go to farm table and tell them our quantity, and then they can go and get it and solve some of the transportation challenges and food safety and packing. They take that on and deliver it to us, which makes it really, really easy.
So this is a question not necessarily about the food, the tasting and sharing it like that, but more kind of in the future, and especially since Waukee has the Apex program, which maybe you want to explain a little bit more about that to people who aren't familiar. But the question is whether or not you have any partnerships, say with like Extension or 4-H or FFA, that would encourage kids to explore ag careers.
Yeah, so we've been working, FFA is actually working on a project, and they'll be working on it more in the fall now. We did receive a small grant from IDOLS that's called the FFA Growing Together Initiative. And so that initiative focuses on FFA students growing and leading the efforts to start a garden at a building. And then those food items are then menued on the school lunch program. So we are working on that right now, and our FFA students have been a resource that we've used a little bit so far. I think as we get closer to implementation and working on our implementation grant, we'll probably start to utilize them more. Right now with planning, it's more about what does our program look like, and what are our vision goals, that sort of thing. And there's a little bit of piloting with that, but not full-blown implementation. So I think as we kind of move forward, we'll really start to utilize our Apex students more, and our FFA students as well. And we have been using Apex. They did design our logo, so our logo that was on the title slide was designed by Apex students in the graphic design program. And then in the, I think it's industrial arts, I'm gonna mess up the actual term for the class, but they're the ones that did our greenhouse discovery. And so they actually just presented at our last farm to school meeting about their designs that they came up with and kind of the rationale for why they chose those designs and the location within the district of where it would be located. So we have been utilizing them for a couple of projects so far, but I think we'll continue to use them going forward even more.
Great. And for those who aren't familiar, Apex is a Waukee School District program that really gives kids opportunities to explore professional careers and receive high school credits. It's a great program that has great business partnerships around Des Moines. Right, Caitlin? Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
A couple more questions that have come in. How do you maintain your school gardens during the summer when school's, or now when school's not in session? And do the kids stay involved with that?
Yeah, so school gardens so there's the garden team at the building, and their focus is getting their volunteers and making sure that they are set to succeed over the summer months. So from a district level, we support them with resources and funding as it's available. And then the team at the building is really the one that's responsible for how the garden operates. So I would say Walnut Hills with their raised bed garden, they've been going for I think 5 or 6 years now, and they have had great parent support. Initially that the garden was funded by their PTO, so that organization has been very supportive for them with sharing about the garden and helping with fundraising efforts and things like that. So PTOs are a great resource, and just parents in general, I think, are a huge, huge asset. And a lot of times parents will bring their students with them over the summer months to help, water the garden, to weed, to do those sorts of things. We did have one mom from Walnut Hills last year that shared her son is autistic, and he began helping her come out and weed the garden and water last year, and he absolutely fell in love with it. And so that's just always so heartwarming to hear that, our students with special needs, or even those that don't have special needs, can really find joy and it's something for them to do during the summer too. So.
That's great. Last question here. As I'm sure you've inspired many people to look at how they can implement this in their school district, but likely you probably had some naysayers in the beginning. What might people expect when kind of the pushback in suggesting this, and what did you experience, and how do they respond to those, or how did you overcome the people who said this will never work?
Yeah, I think our biggest kind of pushback when we initially started was Walnut Hills had their garden already for several years. And I think just, with them as a garden team and not necessarily having district support behind it, there were those times where the garden kind of became a weed patch and things kind of fell through the cracks. And so now I think with them having district support, they are becoming more successful and being able to plant, and it's something that's well supported by the district. But I think that's why, we even created the garden checklist, is because we wanted to show that, yes, these programs can be sustainable, and if it's done right and we have these protocols in place as a district, we can make it be successful and it can be sustainable for the future. So I think that's really where we've tried to focus our efforts, is how can we continue to make the programming sustainable and really show the benefit to our administrators that, yes, there is benefit to this. Kids are learning about nutrition, healthy habits, and they're getting hands-on skills growing food in a garden. So I think if you can kind of show the benefit of all of the programming and what can come out of it, that's definitely helpful for at least for administrators in our district.
Great. This has all been great information. So thank you, Caitlin and Jennifer, and thank you, Julie, who was on previously to share her work. And it's a nutrition-focused day here. So I want to thank also all of our attendees for what they have, with the questions they've sent in, and participating in what was our penultimate conference day here. One of my favorite words, I always like to throw it in whenever I can. So it was our second to the last virtual vIGCPH session. Tomorrow we will be having another, our last session for our last webinar of the session. We'll be having Emma and Tammy present their work. So I hope you do join us again. And thank you, as always, for joining us here on our virtual session. I say it every time, and I mean it more each day. We may be social distancing, but we are still together. We're still a network. We are colleagues dedicated to public health in Iowa. So thank you again, and have a wonderful day.